Okay, so moving on to the third area of applications within the technology, just to recap, the first one was related to the modern computer systems, and then the second was related to the artificial intelligence, neural network based machine learning, and then the third key area is the quantum computing connections, right? Which is where, if you look at the technology evolution today, that's the next big evolution we're talking about. So it wouldn't make sense for us not to talk about the influence of quantum computing and its connections to the ancient scriptures and the wisdoms in it, right? Um, like before, we'll start with another, Bhagavatam quote from Canto 3, chapter 11, verse 1, which says, quote, "The material manifestation's ultimate particle, which is indivisible and not formed into a body, is called the atom." Right? It exists always as an invisible identity, makes sense, even after the dissolution of all forms. Right? So let's take again a minute to digest this and compare to what we know today. So this describes atoms existing in invisible identity, correct? What quantum physics calls superposition. The ancients understood that particles can exist in multiple states, simultaneously. Like the other technology areas, let's look at another verse from one of the Upanishads, which is Mandukya, right? Again, a quote says, "The fourth state is not that which is conscious of the inner world, nor that which is conscious of the outer world. It is the peaceful and blissful. It is the peaceful, the blissful, and the non-dual." So this describes consciousness existing beyond material dimensions. Remarkably similar to quantum mechanics understanding of reality. Right? So Bhagavatam kind of describes atoms existing in invisible, um, identity. What quantum physics calls superposition, right? We just talked about it. So ancient texts understood that observational effects, reality, and multiple states can exist simultaneously. Just to pause and repeat it, that Bhagavatam describes atoms existing in invisible identity. What quantum physics calls superposition, the ancient texts understood that observation affects reality and multiple states can exist simultaneously, right? So the reality and multiple states can exist simultaneously. Okay. Um, Look at this quantum state representation, right? So if you look at the spheres there, the sphere represents all possible quantum state with particles existing as probability distributions across these states until measured. Right? So the ancient concept of invisible identity, right, existing in multiple states parallel modern quantum superposition, which is 0, 1, and 0/1 simultaneously. Okay. So quantum computing applications inspired by this ancient principles include quantum cryptography, the unbreakable security using superposition principles, right? So today, cybersecurity, these are of immense value, right? Drug discovery, molecular simulation and analysis using multiple simultaneous state, AI enhancements, quantum machine learning algorithms processing multiple solution paths simultaneously. Okay. So if you look at the ancient understanding or the principles which kind of uh, correlates or maps to this is the superposition, multiple realities existing simultaneously, exactly as described in ancient text. Observer effect, consciousness affects reality, a principle clearly understood in Vedic literature, and non-dual mathematics, right? The opposites coexist, the foundation of the quantum logic. So again, let's look at some of the key validations we have seen in this section here. So the quantum entanglement, universal connectedness as described in ancient texts, observer effect, consciousness influences matter, validated by quantum experiments, superposition, multiple simultaneous states, the invisible identity of ancient wisdom. Okay. The, the most remarkable aspect is that these aren't just philosophical parallels, right? They are practical principles that are revolutionizing modern technology, all based on understanding that was preserved in ancient texts for thousands of years, and in the modern world, we are uncovering that. So now let's move on to the third area of applications, which is the business side of it, right? So cyclical strategic planning, okay, where cosmic time cycles, which are used very commonly in economic analysis. Like before, we'll start with the Bhagavatam quote, Canto 3, Chapter 11, verse 38. The duration of the material universe is limited. It is manifested in cycles of kalpas. What is a kalpa? A kalpa is a day of Brahma, and one day of Brahma consists of 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas, right? All of the mathematical calculations and the complexity behind which existed in the ancient text. So there's another quote, this time it's from Bhagavad Gita, right, chapter 8, verse 17. By human calculations, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. Okay. This reveals an ancient understanding that all phenomena, including business and economic cycles, follow predictable patterns. Okay. The ancients understood cyclical thinking as fundamental to strategic planning. Okay, now if you look at this cosmic cycles, right, universal patterns of creation, maintenance, and destruction, right? And look at this framework here. Okay, so you see the cycles. You got Satya on the top, right, which is the peak phase, maximum growth and prosperity. Trita, which is the growth phase, expansion and development. Right? Dwapara, which is maintenance phase, which is stability and optimization. And then the current calculation is we are in Kali, right? or Kali Yuga, which some people refer to, is the decline phase, challenges and transformation. Okay, so these aren't just mythological concepts, right? They represent mathematical patterns that modern economists used for long-term market analysis. So let's now kind of look at different modern economic cycles and applications which we can relate to, right? So Toyota's production system, well known in the automobile industry, right, is based on a 100-year cyclical planning methodology, based on these ancient uh, principles. Fortune 500 strategy, long-term market analysis using cosmic time principles. Economic forecasting, right, cyclical models for market prediction, as you can see in the chart above here, right? So you see how the chart varies from expansion to peak, right, to connection, right, to recovery. And then now look on the left, and it kind of sees the patterns, how they emerge, right? So what does this give us? It's 40% better long-term performance using cyclical planning. 100-year planning cycles implemented by leading companies, 500 Fortune companies now using some form of cyclical strategic thinking, right? This is kind of showing you the proof of connections. So if you look at the parallels with the ancient applications of this, agriculture cycle planning, right? Optimizing planting and harvesting. Very complex calculation and how the timing was determined between when to plant, when to harvest, based on so many other what you call as cosmic engineering, which was used at that time. Trade season optimization, right? Trade season optimization. So timing commerce activities, right? So, and then multiple generational thinking. So planning beyond individual, lifespans. So modern validation, so ancient Vedic understanding of cosmic cycles provides the mathematical frameworks that modern economists use for long-term market analysis and strategic business planning. Companies using cyclical planning report that better crisis management through understanding natural cycles, more accurate long-term forecasting, superior resource allocation across time periods. Right? The key insight is that by understanding natural cycles, businesses can position themselves advantageously rather than being surprised by predictable changes.